Boom. Boom. Hey my people, and welcome if you are new. It is story time today. At some point over the past few weeks, I was thinking, pondering, reminiscing on about 10 years ago when I left the straight edge movement. Now you might be wondering, what is straight edge? We're gonna get into that. Before we do, if you would subscribe, like this video if you like it at some point, if you find yourself enjoying it, hit that notification bell, turn it to all. I'd really appreciate if you do those things. Let's talk straight edge. Disclaimer before we get started, for those who might be straight edge watching this, I am no longer straight edge. To be very clear, I will also be only talking from my experience, what I know, the knowledge of the straight edge community, and how I identified as it. To be clear, this is my experience. Other straight edge people have other experiences. That is how it works. Let's hop into what is straight edge. So there are kind of two different communities that I understood and saw growing up. The first one I did not identify with. Not my world. I totally respect it, but not my world. There is a part of the straight edge movement that is kind of religious, organized religion, faith-based. They kind of have their own take on it. You don't do alcohol, you don't do substances, but you also don't consume caffeine. You may not take over-the-counter treatments. It depends, it varies, of course. There is a realm of it that is related to religion and faith. I personally was not part of that world, and I don't know it very well. The one I identified with was the alternative rock, punk rock idea of straight edge, which happened in the 80s when punk rock was really big and grunge was coming up. During this time, people were using drugs quite a bit. People were drinking alcohol quite a bit. There was a whole movement that decided to go against the grain and say, we're not doing it. We're not going to do any of this. We're going to be straight edge. The term straight edge actually came from a band called Minor Threat. If you haven't heard of them, go check them out. They created a song called Straight Edge and people adopted that term. And I think one of the defining characteristics of this community was within that Minor Threat song, there's a lyric that says, always gonna keep in touch, never gonna use a crutch. The idea being that any kind of alcohol, substance, any of it, you use it as a crutch. That is something that I grabbed onto being part of the movement and agreed with, that if you're using those things, for me, I saw it as a crutch. To be clear, I was not going to straight edge shows. I was not with a group of people who were in this specific punk rock movement. I think because I enjoyed the music, I really did identify with this concept and with the song itself, and so I identified as straight edge, though I had friends who didn't drink and didn't identify as straight edge. I also had friends who did drink. It was interesting because I had that array of friends, but I always kept in mind that I made this choice for myself. I did not make this choice for other people. And that's really important to remember as a straight edge person, because I know part of the community was kind of bullying people into being straight edge. I never want to be one of those people, but I never pressured it on people. Happy to have conversations about why it was straight edge. People have to make choices for themselves through their lived experiences. Let's talk about why at 13 I thought that being straight edge was the right choice. With complete confidence and conviction, I went down this path and didn't really question it after I made the decision. There were three factors. I had parents who very much made me aware of the implications of alcohol and substances. I cannot tell you, honestly. I think it was 5, but it may have been more. How many times I saw the healthy lung, black lung comparison. I saw those many times in my childhood, so I was very trained to see those things, which I appreciate, and understand the science, the reality of drinking alcohol and doing drugs and how it impacted your brain. I understood that early on. The second part of it was I was falling in love with music. You know, at the time, 11, 12, 13, the ages like 12 to 15 I think are the most impressionable for music, and the music you're going to have the strongest connection with through the rest of your life. At that time I was finding alternative rock, which to this day I love. It is not a phase. That happening and then finding the straight edge movement when I was talking to someone and they said, oh, you're straight edge. Didn't realize what that was, did research, found out. Third and biggest reason I decided to commit to the straight edge life was we had a family member that was married into the family, and around those years of 11, 12, 13, I started to notice and understand why this person was happy at times, kind of normal, kind of chill. Other times they were what seemed to be angry or amped up, maybe a little more loose with their emotions. And there was a difference. And at that time I was starting to see that difference was because of alcohol. And it made me look at alcohol differently. And I realized I didn't want to be that person. And I'm going to just commit to being straight edge. But I committed 8 years. Made a decision at 13 and stuck with it. The rules I kind of set for myself. What was I limiting out of my life? I was not going to partake in drugs or alcohol. And that was pretty much it. You know, following the law, essentially. The time I would reconsider would be around 21. It was basically how I looked at it. Let's talk pros and cons of being a straight edge kid. I think that's important to recognize. Pros first, cost. It was very affordable to be straight edge because you weren't spending that extra money on alcohol or trying to figure out how to get it. Usually would bring my own drink with me, water, Monster, which now I do regret drinking Monster. That stuff is vile. I can't drink them now, so that tells you a lot. Two, very simple, but I didn't have to worry about legal issues. I didn't have to worry about law enforcement because I knew I wasn't drinking. Now, I recognize that's also partly my privilege. Here's an additional pro, is you are the person who remembers, right? Because you didn't drink. So you usually remember the full context of the story and what happened and all of those lovely things. The last two pros are kind of equal, and that is I always saw my friends got home safe when we were out in college. I felt really good that I could be the DD. This was before Uber and Lyft are what they are today. It was very reassuring to me that I could see them home, make sure they got in the door, and it wasn't extra cost to them. I mean, we were theater technician, and we were at theater parties. Not everyone had a lot of money. So it was good to make sure that I could get them home. Along with that, I'd say at the same level was that it set me up for success. For if I did start drinking, I would always be questioning why I was drinking and checking in with myself as an individual and saying, am I drinking for emotional reasons? Am I drinking because I want to use this as a crutch? That was really great to do as someone who was just starting to drink. Were there times that I was emotionally drinking when I was younger? Yeah, there were a handful of times that happened, and I checked myself. And if I thought I was, I'd just stop drinking. I'd say, okay, it's time for water. One of the best things I could have done for myself is to set up a frame of mind where I am saying, why am I drinking? Is it because I just want to taste this beverage, or do I feel some other pressure somewhere else? Let's talk cons. First con, you could get used in the world of being a straight edge kid and being the DD. A lot of the times my friends would chip in gas money. They would offer to buy me, a non-alcoholic beverage if we were going out somewhere, or they would buy me a meal, something like that, which was very kind of them. I saw it happen a few times to myself, and then I would shut that down with people because it's not cool. You shouldn't use people. The other con was peer pressure. This could go both ways. Some straight edge people feel the need to pressure people into feeling like they should be straight edge because it's the right way or whatever. As a straight edge person, I would never do that, and I never judged people when I showed up at parties because that was not my place. Everyone's on their own journey through life. As I said earlier, if they saw my life and they were like, oh, you're straight edge, cool, let's talk about it. If they were curious, I'd answer questions. Now, some people just could not understand, which I think says a lot more about that person, that they were looking at me and going, what? How are you straight? Are you sure you don't want to drink? Are you sure? Are you sure? And they'd ask me over and over again. I'd be kind. I'd be polite. I'd say no, thank you. And I would be confident. I'd stick with my conviction and say no. And eventually people would go, okay, you don't want to drink. Cool. In those situations, if you're going to a party or you're going somewhere where the person may not have a drink for you, which in college, right, a lot of people were just buying the alcohol because that's what they could afford. And I totally understood that. So I'd show up with my own drink, usually a Monster, and water. I appreciate if they did have something for people who didn't drink, but it was rare in college, not gonna lie. Now, the question I probably get the most from the time of being straight edge, and if I end up having a conversation about it now, is do I regret it? And I don't. Not even an iota, if you will. One of the best decisions I ever made for myself, and I will stand by that forever. I often go back on it and think, wow, I'm so glad I did that. How I look at substances. Now I kind of fully understand the science behind things. before just trying something willy-nilly and possibly getting addicted. So for me, that was really successful, and I feel very thankful and very lucky that that's kind of how it worked out for me. I understand there's privilege involved, of course, but I am thankful. And it didn't really change my social life at all. I think people get caught up and think you're just gonna stay at home and do nothing and just be that weird kid who doesn't drink. No, I had a great social life. I have incredible friends from high school still, where we built wonderful, lasting memories. From college, same thing, really good core group of friends that I'm still lucky to have to this day. I still went to parties. I was still very much out till 2 or 3 in the morning. I just wasn't drinking. It's really the only difference. And I was laughing and socializing just as much. So it really didn't change that for me. The only time I ever, in a situation, would have to deal with something was when someone was maybe trying to peer pressure me. And that was about it. And that was rare too. And after you say no enough, they get it. As far as the family member goes that was married into the family, they are no longer married into the family. The person who inspired me to commit to the straight edge movement, they are doing okay from what I know. I just hope and wish the best for them, but the reality is, I don't know. I don't get many updates on this person. I just hope they're okay. If you want a follow-up kind of on why I decided to no longer be straight edge, please let me know. I'd be willing to share with you, of course. I just want to look back on this time, share this experience. If someone out there is going through similar things or is interested in the straight edge movement, this was my experience. It was positive. It was good. If you want to know more specifically about this straight edge movement, I will link if I can find it. There was a great BBC documentary where they talked about the straight edge movement. If you're a podcast listener, you would love it. It was a radio interview documentary. Comment below if you want to hear any of these stories. Liking this video also really helps me out to let me know that you enjoy this particular content. So please do those things, and I'd be happy to do that. Along with that, if you'd subscribe, become part of the Questing fam, I'd really appreciate it. Well, as I said, like this video if you like it. It does really help push videos in the algorithms. Hit the notification bell and turn it to all. You have to toggle it to all. It's very annoying, but if you want to know when my videos come out, the moment they come out, you have to toggle that notification bell to all. Reminder, I'm doing weekly Vlogmas kind of every Sunday through the rest of the year. You're getting an additional video from me, so Friday, Sunday. And if you want to know when they come out, the moment they come out, turn that notification to all. Okay, you get it. This was a fun little way to, kick off December, I think, and sit down, chat with you about a very important time in my life. Just a reminder, please wear your mask. Please wash your hands. Please take care of yourself and others. Stay connected. Take care of each other. Do the things so we can get out of this pandemic. I want to, you want to, we all want to, I think. Thank you so much for hanging out today and letting me share a little bit about my past and, who I am and how I got here. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye, yada, 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 yada. Anyone else stuck all the time? Wow, at least it's a good song. Was it 8, 9? Somewhere between 7 and 9 years. I think it was 8 years, but math. Cold coffee. I was cold. Was not expecting that. Woo. Right under it. This shirt really felt fitting for today. Look at that. Oh.